Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. Awkwardly segue into The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. So I have a little synopsis here. It's a modern take on the ancient philosophy of Stoicism, which helps you endure the struggles of life with grace and resilience by drawing lessons from ancient heroes, former presidents, modern actors, athletes, lots of different people in this book. And that's it. And that's kind of my, what is the book? It's really, Ryan Holiday has taken Stoicism in multiple different books now and made it more mainstream and popularized it again. These things do exist, but if you've ever read any of the original Stoic philosophy, I mean, it reads similar to like the Bible at times, where it's just kind of hard to fully comprehend without like reading like a couple sentences at a time and stopping and trying to think about what that meant. So I think what he's done is awesome, by making Stoicism more popular. But we can dive into more of the book. That's not my takeaway or anything. That's just kind of what the book is about. Who wants to go first? And we got to we need some sort of like Garage Gym Athlete rating for these books. Like that's something we need to start. Like we give this one 5 barbells and 2 kettlebells, or I don't know. But
let's do like a scale from 1 to 10. Like keep it simple.
It's not on theme though.
We'll work on it.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll have that ready.
All right, thoughts on the book?
But by next review. Okay, so I'll start it off because I think I'm going to take this a different direction than the other people will. I think the point of this book, honestly, is really, really good. The main point, if you boil it down, and it was actually one of my favorite points of the Art of Resilience, and one of the things that I brought up, and that is about perception and perspective of what you're doing, and when bad things happen, and how to reframe your perspective and state of mind to get past certain things. I think that if you take that, just think about every point in the book, that is the main takeaway. And it is a great point. And I think more people need to do that. But I think most of his examples fell flat to me. I don't think he did all that well in explaining them, or they kind of got jumbled up in a little bit to me. And I'm going to try not to rant about it too much, but like one of his examples when he went from Rockefeller to Amelia Earhart, they were contradictory to me. When he mentioned Rockefeller, he praised him for not doing something when he had an opportunity. But then Amelia, he was like, yeah, she took that opportunity, even though it sucked. And look where she is now. And those, like, sometimes I think he had a great point and what he wanted to boil this down to for, like you're saying, bringing stoicism to people, making it relatable. But I think choosing the biggest names that like Google pops up with kind of makes it hard to relate to me, at least to me.
That was kind of my critique of The Art of Resilience. It's because if you think about when the authors write these books, you stumble across the life story or scientific studies, 100 of them, and they're all of a sudden like, maybe I should write a book on stoicism. They start with stoicism, and then they're like, I'm going to go try and find as many examples as I can and twist, what is true to what I'm trying to write about. So I do think that when authors are using examples like that, it can get lost.
Yeah. And I guess I see what you're talking about now with Art of Resilience. But, when somebody's like, hey, look at what Steve Jobs did. If he can do it, you can do it. It's kind of hard to pick up on it. It's kind of like when you tell your kid, hey, you need to go to college, and they're like, well, Jeff Bezos didn't, or something like that. And you're like, well, that's just like 1% of the 1% example that you're giving me. Anyway, if you focus on the main point of the book while you're going through it, I think that is the most important thing to do. And it is super short. So like I read this thing in 2 days, or listened to it in 2 days. So, and it is a fantastic point just to keep that in mind. But to me, the examples kind of fell flat and were hard to relate to. But I will pass it off to Kyle, who might have some more productive things to say.
So I kind of just a word about the writing style of this book. I made up a word to describe it. I described it as blurby. So like there's a lot of blurbs in it that you can take out to just, and it at times it kind of seems like he's just kind of repeating a blurb after a blurb after a blurb. And so like this is something I can take out and just put it on a sticker or put it on a poster or something like that. But kind of like what Jerred said, it reminded me of reading like something like an ancient source, something like what he's talking about from Stoicism, the writings of Stoicism. And if you read the Bible, a lot of people treat the Bible that way as well. There's just little verses or passages that you can take out and boom, I'm going to use this today as just kind of my focus. And so when really the whole thing should go together, I mean, it's hard to know the entire Bible all at once. I understand that, but understanding the entire point of the work itself instead of just focusing on little blurbs here and there. So the blurbs are helpful to kind of remember points, but to understand the entire overarching point is more important, I think. So if that's your kind of book, then this is going to be really good for you. A couple of things that I took out of it, he mentioned the process. He specifically mentioned Nick Saban. And so I'm not a huge fan of Nick Saban because I'm a Tennessee fan, but I do respect the crap out of him as a coach. I think he's unbelievable as a coach. And I think obviously the process that he uses is really, really admirable and obviously very successful. But Ryan kind of talks about this of he doesn't teach or coach his people to focus on the end goal, which for a college football team is winning the national championship, right? He doesn't focus on winning the national championship. He focuses on winning this drill. He focuses on winning this play in practice. He focuses on doing these reps in the gym, during your training sessions, all of that kind of stuff. And for college athletes, there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of things that they need to get right every day. And that's what you focus on. You focus on what's right in front of you. There's a task right in front of you. And all of these tasks together, you set the goal of winning the national championship, but then all of these tasks together that you focus on every single day, those all add up to achieving the goal, as opposed to just always focusing on the goal. And that's what I'm striving for, and kind of losing sight of all of the little stuff that goes into that. And so that's kind of what I really enjoyed that. And one little blurb, if I could take out from it, he said, the process is about finishing. It's about finishing the task that's in front of you. And so every day, that's the process. Here's the goal, the ultimate goal that I want to achieve, but then the process is all the daily stuff that you do to get up to that point. If only someone would like write a book or like a journal or something that would help people like focus on their daily stuff. Oh wait, we have one of those. Never mind.
Where can you buy it? Nobody knows.
No one knows.
It's actually, if you go to the store, Garage Gym Athlete, it's there. We're just currently sold out. But we'll have more soon.
One more thing that I took out of it is one of the big points, one of the names of the chapters actually in the book is something bigger than yourself. And that's something that I really try to stick to just personally. But he's talking about how everything that you do needs to be done with a higher purpose in mind. It just doesn't just need to be about you. It doesn't just need to be about your success or your achievements or anything like that. The things that you do should be focused towards others. And of course, that's a big part of my faith as well. As a Christian, that's what the Bible teaches as well. It's all about living for other people and trying to make sure other people achieve what they need and what they want, and taking care of others' needs and putting them more important than yourself. But that's what I've also found with just goals just in life is if you're only focusing on achieving something for you, or you're achieving something because of what you get out of it, eventually, I mean, that'll work for a little while, but eventually that's going to come crashing down, because at some point you're going to realize that you are not a universe in and of yourself. You're not an island. There are other people around you. There are other things around you that you need to support you. And so if it's all about you, eventually all of that falls apart because there's nothing else to hold it up. And so that's kind of what he's talking about is, yes, focus on these obstacles and focus on the path and focus on the process, but your inherent motivation should not just be selfish. It should be pointed towards others as well, or pointed towards some purpose that's higher than you. So I really enjoyed that as well. So just focusing on the process and making sure everything is driven towards a purpose that's bigger than yourself. I think those couple of things are really helpful for people to just be mindful of. Ashley.
So I won't overdo what, Joe and Kyle have already said, but basically he kind of breaks it down into 3 disciplines. He talks about perspective, he talks about action, and then he talks about your will. And we've talked about perspective at length. But what I loved about it too was he also talked about, like, this isn't just something that you will hit and then you'll never have an obstacle again. Like, this is for you to learn something to then apply it when other obstacles come. You're not just going to, never have an obstacle in life ever again. So hopefully that this is something that you can take a mind shift and then apply it to anything else that potentially is, stuck between a rock and a hard place that, you come across in life in general. I loved that they talked about right and effective action. Like, when you come across a problem, don't just, throw darts at it, just randomly try to figure things out. Like, he talks about having a plan, and how to actually, like, stick to that plan and try to take steps towards the goal that you ultimately have, and have a game plan, not just like diving in, is what I said. And then he talks about persistence and flexibility within that too, which I loved that. Like, if something isn't working, try to be flexible about it. Try to shift something and try to do something else, even if it's, again, outside your realm of comfort. So overall, I agreed with Joe a little bit. Like, there was a lot of storytelling in this book, but at the end of the day, I also agree with Kyle. You need to take home, like, the big overarching theme, and I agree with the points in the book. So yeah, Jerred, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's a good book. I think you're either going to kind of like Ryan Holiday's style of writing or you're not.
Mm.
My favorite quote of all time is by Ben Franklin, and it's either write something worth reading or do something worth the writing.
Mm.
And I feel like I'm not saying Ryan Holiday hasn't done much. I don't know much about the guy, but he makes his point through other people. Like, almost, I think, zero personal experience. Like, I think he talks about himself a little bit, like, in the beginning. I'm not saying he hasn't experienced these things, but that is more the approach. He's writing something worth reading, but he's not necessarily focused on doing something worth the writing. And those are 2 very different types of books. Like, Jocko's books, all he did something, he's telling you what he learned. David Goggins, those he did, here's his life story. Art of Resilience guy, I did something awesome. Here's what it's more about. I did something awesome, and I'm either going to write about myself or, you can pull examples. And I think that in this realm, because I read a lot of these types of books, I prefer when the person's done something as opposed to you telling me about historical examples. And I don't dislike, I use historical examples in my book, Killing Comfort. So it's not like this big critique. I just trying to say you either like or dislike it based on what type of books you generally gravitate towards. I think anything on Stoicism is good. My biggest takeaway, similar to everyone here, is the perception. We cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. That's it. And I think if you don't figure that out in life, you're gonna get beat up pretty bad, because a lot of crappy things can happen in life, and really that's the only guarantee, right, is that a lot of crappy stuff is going to happen. Some good things are going to happen too, but there's no way we get out of this thing alive, and that's crappy already. And so these are things that you need to think about and prepare yourself for. So I think Stoicism is great. I think his book, he also put together the Daily Stoic, which is like a kind of like a daily devotional type thing. It's like a small passage and then his explanation of it. I think if you really want to dive into Stoicism, that's a great place to do it as well. If you need bigger picture ideas, any of the 3 books he's written are all about Stoicism in one way or another. I think it's just a good way to live your life, being more stoic. And a lot of people are stoic in nature without having looked at the writings of Ryan Holiday. Like, I think I was generally a more stoic person. My dad's like stoic as hell. Like, it's just kind of the people embody these things. And I feel like the previous generations were way more stoic, just like my dad's generation, my grandpa, like those people were just really stoic from life, not from reading anything from Marcus Aurelius. You know what I mean? So a lot of people already have that. But I think it's a good thing if you do struggle with that, being a little bit more stoic, then I think you should really dive into this stuff.
Then after you read the book, you can go watch some Gladiator. It'll make
There you go.
happy.
What? That seems
Or you
like the
could read the
opposite
book.
of
Marcus Aurelius. Gladiator. Okay. Never mind.
Is
No,
it
I
a book?
mean-
I don't.
Is Gladiator a book? I don't think so. I think it was
I'm
just
sure there's
a movie.
books about
Just a movie.
gladiators.
I tried.
I'm sure
I
we
thought
can find
everything
them
was
for
a
you.
book and then it was a movie.
No,
Which one?
no.
Because then I can
Nope.
hear people like you all say, I think the book is better. And I'll be like, yeah, well, I'm never going to read the freaking book. So.
Well,
Oh,
right
yes,
here,
spicy
the
to
movie is
say.
better because the book doesn't exist,
There you go.
and the movie is better than a lot of other
Yes,
movies.
it's the one time it's worked in my life.
you go.
Well, I'm slightly jealous of the fantasy readers, is what I was trying to say.
Uh-huh.
Oh, jealousy!
I
now.
know I
Uh-huh.
can't. If the book is actually better, like that's a factual statement, not just I'm trying to sound cool because I read books type
Not trying to
statement.
flex. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a flex like, oh, I read,
Nope.
and it's more like, no, this is actually better than the movie.
Mm.
I'm jealous of that mental visualization capacity you have that I don't have. I read a book and my brain sees words. It doesn't see what's happening. And this is why I don't read fantasy books, but
You are
I would love
technically
to.
correct.
The
I would
books
love
you read,
to-
they don't turn into movies.
Yeah. No, unless something really bad happens. Yeah. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.